With 2 games left in the 2022 season, the search for the next head coach of the Denver Broncos is already underway. Coming up on Broncos Weekend, we'll discuss the direction the Denver Broncos are heading, with owner and CEO Greg Penner leading the search. What you might expect as Jerry Rosburg takes the reins for the final 2 games as interim head coach, and what it'll take for the Broncos to snap their 14-game losing streak to the Chiefs this Sunday. Broncos Weekend starts right now. For joining us for the Week 17 edition of Broncos Weekend, everyone. I'm Alexis Perry, grateful to have the Hall of Famer Steve Atwater and former Broncos offensive lineman Orlando Franklin with me here today to preview the Broncos' final meeting with the Chiefs this season. And guys, I think it is safe to say that no one could have imagined that this team would be 4-11 heading into Arrowhead Stadium with an interim head coach for their second to last game this season. But that is the reality of this situation. Earlier this week, we heard Russell Wilson, Justin Simmons, and other players speak to the dismissal of head coach Nathaniel Hackett with just 2 games left in the season. So what really stood out to you guys about the player reaction to Hackett's firing?
Well, I think all the players, they really felt badly. Seemed like they were a little bit apologetic. They, really felt badly about this whole situation, and they know that, hey, if they would have played better, if we would have won more games, that Coach Hackett would still have a job. So I know they feel terribly about that, but guess what? They got to bounce back. They got to come out here and play this week so that this doesn't happen at the end of the year to some of the players.
Right. Unfortunate situation anytime anybody gets fired, right? And, all these players respect Nathaniel Hackett. You could tell that from day one, how he came in and how he approached the game. He respected the players. And he told these players each and every time as he was putting plays in, he told them the why of the reason and why you're doing this, right? And when you understand that as a player, it's easy to go out there and now try to go run through that wall for that head coach.
Yeah.
So these guys were trying to do those things, but they weren't able to do it as efficiently enough as they would like to. And ultimately, Nathaniel Hackett is no longer here because of it. You look at all the different things that have happened throughout the course of the year, it's not all on Nathaniel Hackett. You could point at some of the things, hey, you know what, he didn't go about training camp the right way, things like that. But it's not his issue to go out there and not hold or not have false start penalties. This was one of the most penalized teams in the National Football League this year. So although Nathaniel Hackett was fired earlier this week, a lot of this has to do with the players as well. And when you heard them talk and speak about Nathaniel Hackett, you could tell a lot of those guys wish that they would have made better decisions and helped him out to keep him here for a longer period of time.
Well, owner and CEO Greg Penner held a joint press conference with General Manager George Paton on Tuesday, and both touched on the severe disappointment that this season has been before outlining some of the initial steps they plan on taking to get this franchise back to its historically winning ways. So, guys, what were some of your biggest takeaways from that press conference on Tuesday in terms of the direction it sounds like this team is heading?
Well, it sounds like from listening to Greg Penner that one, they're looking for someone who's going to be a very strong leader, someone who will hopefully be here for a while. I think that's one of the things that this organization has been missing, just not having the stability of a head coach that has been here for 5, 10, 15 years. And I think that they're on the quest to find that. And hopefully, there are some qualified people out there. Hopefully we can land one of those guys.
There's a new general in town, and it's GP. Greg Penner, right? That's what I took away from this press conference, that the buck stops with him and that this ownership group was not happy. And I love the fact that he went out there and basically publicly challenged Russell Wilson to get better. You haven't played up to the standards. It starts now as far as next season. Does that include getting your body right? Does that watching more film, not jumping on different flights every time you get an opportunity to leave? Are you hanging out with your teammates and making sure that continuity is there? Because the expectation here in Broncos country is to win a lot of football games.
Well, different than the last coaching hire this time around, Greg Penner, he will be leading that search. And whoever the new head coach is will report directly to him instead of George Paton. You guys, what do you hope is at the top of the Broncos' priority list as they obviously get to another head coaching search?
Well, I would say someone who has a history of being a head coach, one, and also having stability, a person who's been in a place for a period of time and has had some success. Now, are a ton of those guys available? No, but there are a couple who are available, and hopefully we'll pursue those guys and hopefully they can come and bring the winning traditions that they have, and also just light a fire underneath these guys. So when they go out on the field, Broncos country knows that they're giving it 110% every single time.
Yeah. I don't want to sit here and just say like a disciplinarian, right? Because we know that this team has been the most penalized team in the NFL this year. I just want a coach that is going to be the CEO of all three phases, right? How does offense fit in with defense and defense with special teams? And a coach that is going to look at all three of those phases and make decisions that are going to benefit all three of those phases. Obviously, the most important thing that this new head coach is going to have to do is get this offense to score touchdowns, not almost touchdowns like we had this year. So it's about coming in here, gaining the respect of the players, but showing these players that, hey, if we work together, we will have success. And all 53 guys need to be treated the exact same. Whether it's Russell Wilson or the long snapper, they need to be treated the exact same way in order to have success. And that head coach has to lay down the law from day one.
Coming up here on the other side of the break, we'll discuss what these final 2 weeks of the 2022 season might look like for the Broncos, with Rosburg now running the show. Don't go anywhere.
DT was our number one guy. His play spoke for itself.
Thomas is there and makes the catch.
He could do just about anything on the football field.
Demaryius Thomas out over the 45. Here we go.
We set out for him to be the most dominant receiver here.
Pass caught, one-handed, the catch of the night.
He was like electrifying.
Play the time, that's all we need to do.
He was one of a kind.
DT's got it, touchdown Denver.
He was a defensive coordinator's worst nightmare, but for me, boy, he was just a gift.
And they have an incredible assortment of star players in that team, starting with Patrick Mahomes and Kelsey and Frank Clark and all these guys. It goes on and on. I could list them, and you all know them. And so, who would sign up for this? You know, so you get to coach in the National Football League, huh? Okay. Here's the Kansas City Chiefs. Here I am. Choose me.
Welcome back inside the Broncos Media Center. Alexis Perry here alongside Steve Atwater and Big O for the first post-Hackett era edition of Broncos Weekend. Guys, after defensive coordinator and longtime friend of Coach Hackett, Ejiro Evero, denied the interim head coach position, George Paton then turned to NFL lifer and senior assistant coach Jerry Rosburg to lead this team for the final 2 games. Coach Rosburg took to the podium for the first time on Wednesday. I have to ask, what were your initial impressions of Jerry Rosburg, Big O?
I thought he did a heck of a job, sitting back and kind of telling us how all of this went behind the scenes. And when you're hired, last year I was on the San Francisco 49ers coaching staff, right? And I got there for training camp, left 22 days into training camp, was home for a week and a half, and all of a sudden, boom, I'm on that coaching staff. And when that happens, you could feel a little intimidated with all these NFL players, these other coaches that have been working their butts off since January to create this scheme and system. But it was nice to hear Jerry Rosburg just talk about the behind the scenes and how the players, accepted him immediately and started asking him about his background and using him in certain situations to further their knowledge of the football. So I liked hearing that part, and then I liked just hearing kind of his plan moving forward for this Broncos football team, because this is a guy that he said it himself the first time he went up there. I'm not trying to build my resume. My resume speaks for itself. And I truly believe that because he's been around a long time in the National Football League. He's won a lot of football games, and he's done it at a very high level. And what I really look at is the fact that, there's a name out there, Jim Harbaugh, that keeps on circling around. Well, Jerry Rosburg was on that coaching staff with Jim Harbaugh, right? So I like that connection for the Broncos as well. So I think it's a little bit of Greg Penner playing a little bit of chess while everybody else is playing checkers right now.
Oh, man, I like it. I thought he was very thoughtful in his comments and just going back through his past, the experiences that he had, as, being a special teams guy, him getting his hands dirty with special teams and taking the lead there. And then also firing 2 coaches. I mean, who does that on the first day on the job? I thought that
first few hours.
Yeah. I think that really spoke highly just about his leadership skills and his ability to not be timid. He's jumping in. He's taking the bull by the horns, and that can be a good thing. Now, hopefully the players react to that positively. Sometimes you never know how players respond. Some guys will take to it. Some guys will probably fight back, push back a little bit. But I think in everyone's best interest, they should follow his lead. He's been with some winning organizations. He knows what it takes to win, and hopefully we can get a win this week because it's going to be a heavy task for us.
Yeah, well,
the most interesting thing about this whole situation for me is that Jerry Rosburg was on that Baltimore Ravens coaching staff. John Harbaugh coaches the Baltimore Ravens. John has always been a special teams guy. That's how he got his start. That's how he became a head coach in the National Football League. For John, as a head coach, to say, man, you know what? I'm going to take a step away from this and allow somebody else to call my special teams for me. You have to have respect for that coach.
Yeah.
What did we just see here with the Denver Broncos over the last couple years? Our last two head coaches, Nathaniel Hackett, offensive-minded head coach, he's calling plays, doesn't want to give up play calling to anybody. Ultimately, that did end up happening, but that's how it started off. With Vic Fangio as well, defensive-minded head coach, brings in his buddy Ed Donatel, but he doesn't give up coaching duties. So we just saw two coaches that have been here with the Denver Broncos that brought people in to be their offensive coordinators or defensive coordinators, but never wanted to give up that responsibility. When I start looking at John Harbaugh and Jerry Rosburg and their history, and for Jerry to be able to call special teams for John Harbaugh, I'm super excited about this because that tells me that he could lead and he could sit there and capture the attention of an entire room.
Yeah, well, you know, Rosburg, he made a point to mention the timing of his takeover, obviously heading into the second and final Chiefs week of the season. You guys, given what's transpired this week, what do you hope his message is to the team heading into this game against the Chiefs?
I would say hyper-focus. You know, and he mentioned that, hey, I'm not worried about what happens next year. I'm not worried about your new head coaching job, your interviews, none of that. I'm worried about these two games and specifically this day of practice. And I love that because that's really how granular you have to be. Your
one day at a
mindset
time.
has to be one day at a time, one play at a time, one series at a time. You win those, get those small wins, and you start stacking them. That's where the success comes from.
Right.
Yeah, this game means everything. The game of football, for me, for you, Steve, it's always meant everything. But when you get an opportunity to go up to Kansas City and they're playing for something, if you could figure out a way to win this football game, yes, it's been a really, really down season. People have not been excited. Yes, Christmas was last week and the Broncos got embarrassed out there by the LA Rams. But if you could find a way to go into Arrowhead and win this football game, I promise you're going to put this whole entire state in a great mood. So I hope that's the message that's being delivered because I watched Nathaniel Hackett kind of really talk about no rivalries and things like that. And for me, I hate the Chiefs. I hate the Chargers. I hate the Raiders. And I even played for the Chargers for a couple years, but the Denver Broncos drafted me.
Yeah.
And I'm loyal to this organization. And anytime you play against a divisional opponent, that hatred has to come out. So hopefully Jerry Rosburg is getting ready to get that hatred to come out for all 53 of these guys that are getting ready to play this week. But I really think that the Broncos could go out there after an emotional week, and I think that they could get it done. So hopefully they do get it done.
I'm with you on that, for sure. Well, still to come here on Broncos Weekend, we'll take a closer look at this Week 17 matchup between the Broncos and Chiefs.
I loved watching him play because he was fearless and he just was relentless and he made it look easy.
Demaryius Thomas out over the 45. Here we go.
He could do just about anything on the football field.
DJ breaks a tackle inside the 10. Touchdown, Denver.
He was one of a kind.
Everybody in his life was special.
He was a great leader.
The best teammate.
DT's got it.
His smile lit up a room.
He loved kids and he loved to give back.
Boy, he was just a gift.
Thanks for sticking with us for this final segment of Broncos Weekend. On the very first day of 2023, the Denver Broncos will face their most difficult task yet, facing the Kansas City Chiefs at Arrowhead Stadium less than a week after the dismissal of Nathaniel Hackett. Interim head coach Jerry Rosburg has taken this challenge to end the Broncos' 14-game losing streak against the Chiefs head-on with less than a week to prepare for this matchup. And one thing that he did make clear is that it will be Russell Wilson starting on Sunday. Wilson said on Wednesday that he knows he must be better, and we saw flashes of what's expected expected of him week 14 against the Chiefs, which really was his best outing of the season before he was sidelined due to a concussion. So guys, thinking back to that performance, what do you hope that Russ can really build off of as he hopes to end this season on a slightly higher note?
Well, I would say he did a great job of using his legs, getting outside the pocket, and then running. But what I would like to see him do is get down. Don't take those hard hits because guys are just defensive guys mostly have that mindset. They're going to try to hurt a guy if you can. Also, hey, who is his primary target? Jerry Jeudy.
Yep.
I've been screaming Jerry Jeudy's name all year long. It doesn't matter where you line him up at, just get him the ball. Get Jerry Jeudy the ball. We also he targeted 9 other receivers that game, but Jerry Jeudy was the primary target, and I like that he was able to kind of mix it up some, but he always came back to Jerry Jeudy in the clutch situation, so I like to see more of that.
Ball security is job security, right? We just watched Russell Wilson on Christmas Day throw 3 interceptions, being the quarterback of the Denver Broncos. The last time the Broncos played against the Chiefs, that's the second last time that Russell Wilson played. And the Broncos were able to scratch and claw their way back in and to lose in a 1-score game to the Chiefs. So for me, I watched that game and watched Russell Wilson throw an interception that ended up being a pick 6. It's all about ball security.
Yeah.
There's not a lot of things that you could really improve on from 1 week, and especially your head coach, your guy. There's all types of different things that are going on. But Russell can control if he's going to let the football go in that situation. So for me, the biggest thing that he has to correct this week and over the next 2 games, no interceptions. Take care of the football. Yeah. If you go to the ground, make sure that you're the one that's getting up from the ground, and you have to be able to take care of the football in order to be the quarterback for the Denver Broncos.
Yeah, in addition to ball security, what are some of the other changes or improvements that you want to see this offense as a whole make, whether that's from play calling or from an execution standpoint? How does this team need to improve this week?
For me, it's really timing and execution. We run some plays. I've seen us run screen plays where we throw the ball out to the receiver and the lineman, he hasn't gotten there to block yet, and the guy just comes up and makes the tackle. Or I've seen plays where the center, either Graham Glasgow or Lloyd Cushenberry, we got to play a run to the left, and they're trying to block the outside linebacker, and he's all the way out there. He just goes up and makes a tackle.
Right.
I like to see that, the timing, the execution of that cleaned up, and running plays that kind of make sense, that are a little less stressful on those interior offensive linemen, because it's difficult for a center to get over and block an outside linebacker on an outside run play.
I'm sure Big O's going to agree with you.
Absolutely. But the biggest thing that I want to see is, how about we just listen to the Hall of Famer, Steve Atwater? Last week we sat here in these very seats and we talked about a play, the Arizona Cardinals game, that we wanted to see the Broncos run more of. The nice quick little pitch play to Latavius Murray that went for 30+ yards. Well, last week against the LA Rams, we didn't see that play. So how about we just reuse some of the plays that we've had success on all year? I watched Russell Wilson have 37 dropbacks in this game. Yeah, I know it got out of hand, and after the first 4 minutes, around 4 minutes of the game, that the Broncos were down 17-0. But at the same time, where's the play action? Where's the boots? Where's the moving pockets? Let's do the things that Russell Wilson has actually had success, but also let's do the things that you've had success already at as a football team. That's why I love this sport, football. It's the ultimate team sport. You could sit back there and think that you're Peyton Manning or Tom Brady or Drew Brees, but if you don't have those offensive line that Peyton Manning and Tom Brady and Drew Brees had, you're not going to be able to have that success.
You got nothing.
If you don't have those wide receivers that Peyton Manning, Tom Brady, and Drew Brees had, you're not going to have that success. You look at all these different tight ends that each and every one of those individuals had. Tom Brady's struggling this year. He doesn't have Gronk. Peyton Manning always needed a tight end as well, right? So when you look at just football and how you go about it each and every day, it's not about what the superstar could do. It's about what the weakest link can do. 100%. And whatever the weakest link could do good, that's what you got to keep on repeating. You don't have to try to tailor and design something to the superstar, because there's a lot of people that are not up to Russ's playing level on this football team. So let's design a playbook this week that we feel good about all 11 people out there when we're calling that play, and we feel that that play is going to have success for all 11 guys that are already out there, not just Russell Wilson.
I feel like Russell Wilson earlier this week kind of hinted at a possible Albert Okwuegbunam sighting on Sunday. How much could Albert O help this week? I know we haven't seen him much, obviously, this season.
So for me, I'm playing all the young guys as well. Alberto, I get it. He's not a willing blocker, doesn't want to participate, this and that. But he's the best athlete in that tight end room. So if I have to line him up and detach him from the line of scrimmage, Steve said the nasty split, when it's about 5 yards away from the offensive tackle. If I have to do that, yes, that's what I'm doing. Because the next couple weeks, it's all about who wants to be a Denver Bronco in 2023. And if I could get guys out there and see what they could do and their ability and see if they have improved over the year, we're going to be better for it, because the next head coach for the Denver Broncos, everybody's on the job interview right now. They're interviewing for all 32 teams, and they're interviewing to continue to be here. So yes, Alberto 100% should be playing. And I'm ramping up the snaps on him as well. I'm not sprinkling them in or anything like that. I'm like, hey, you got about 45 of these snaps, right?
Yeah, it was really surprising me that he didn't get more playing time. I don't know if he was in the doghouse, he's got into it with somebody or what, but that is great news to hear if he's going to be a part of this game plan. I've always enjoyed watching him play. He's a freak of nature when you look at how big he is and how fast he is, how great he is with the run after the catch. It's really exciting to see. So that'll be good news if he's able to get the ball some this weekend.
Okay, when it comes to the Chiefs, obviously we don't need to sit here and rattle off just how good Patrick Mahomes is, but I will say early in that game, week 14, Denver's defense really struggled, but then they were obviously able to really recover from their rocky start and give the offense a chance to complete the comeback.
Yeah, well, it started with turnovers. With 2 minutes, 59 seconds, Josie Jewell stepped in front of a pass that was intended for Travis Kelce, made an amazing catch. I don't know how he held on to it. And then we went down and scored. And guess what? Come right back, Pastor Tan. Another interception. Back-to-back interceptions there. So turnovers have always been big deciders of who's going to win games, and normally the team who gets the most turnovers wins those ball games, and we did a great job of doing that, getting it started. That's right when it started, right with 3 minutes left in the second quarter. That's when we started getting going offensively as well. So it sparked the offense and it sparked more turnovers by the defense. So if we can get turnovers, we got a good chance to do some great things and win this game.
In addition to some of the other big name guys, kind of a sleeper here, their running back, Jerick McKinnon. This guy has at least a touchdown in each of his last 4 games. And obviously he had 2 against the Broncos there week 14. So how does this defense, specifically with McKinnon, really limit his impact this week?
Well, it's odd because, he had 3 big plays in the last game that we played them, and all 3 of them, he was lined up in the backfield, and Patrick Mahomes threw him the pass. Everybody remembers the no-look pass where he was kind of looking at our sideline and just flipped it over to him. In that particular play, I'm not sure who messed that up. I think I saw Baron Browning, who looked like he had contained on that play, run to the other side of the field, and Justin Simmons was covering McKinnon, and then he came up to try and contain Patrick Mahomes, and he just tossed it over his head. But we got to clean that up, make sure we have contain on that play, and Justin will be able to stay on McKinnon. And, I think we could have made the play there, but they did a good job of designing the plays, and we didn't do such a good job of tackling and making sure that everybody was accounted for.
Jerick McKinnon's the scalpel. He's the guy that they're going to move. He's the third down guy. They're trying to get him up in the screen game, trying to get him up in the passing game. Well, how do you stop a scalpel? You hit him in his mouth.
There we go.
That's how you stop him. One time you catch him square up and you light him up, I promise you, he will not be running as hard. I promise you, he will not be looking for that football as much as well. He will be wondering where the next big hit is coming from.
Okay, DJ Jones. Big week for you, DJ Jones.
I was with DJ last year in San Francisco.
Yeah. So. Guys, there is no denying that a win this week would obviously just be so huge for this team for a plethora of reasons. So, as always, number 1 key to victory for the Broncos, to take down the Chiefs week 17. Big O?
Oh, number 1 key to take down the Chiefs the week 17. Defensively, always have to contain. Right, I saw that play that we just talked about with Jerick McKinnon, with Patrick Mahomes rolls out. Well, Baron Browning had dropped off in coverage, so there wasn't a end man on the line of scrimmage that was keeping contain on Patrick Mahomes. So you have to be able to keep Patrick Mahomes in the pocket in order to have any type of success with him. Keep on rushing, keep your rush lanes, but keep him in the pocket. Don't let him allow him the ability to run around. Offensively, it's keep away. You have to win the time of possession. You have to run the heck out of the football, take care of the front seven, right? We know that Chris Jones is an absolute grizzly bear in the middle. 12 sacks this year, and it seems like he has a tackle for a loss on every series.
Yeah.
It seems that he's out there. So run away from Chris Jones.
Does he intimidate players?
I'm happy that I don't play in the NFL no more, watching Chris Jones. You know, I am happy. You know, he's an absolute freak of nature, and what he does really well is he doesn't care what you're doing. He's going to put you in the backfield every single time. So he is just up the field, jetting up the field. He's going to get those 2 steps, and he's going to, you know, take you off of your track, so there is no cutback if he's on the backside. If you're trying to get front side, he's not going to allow you to get the edge. So that's what a great job that he does do. But it's all about being efficient as well. You know, Russ has to come out in this game and be the most efficient that he's ever been when it comes to throwing the football. If they do that, they have a legitimate opportunity, in my opinion.
Numerous keys from Big O today.
Well, I got 2 keys as well. I got one offense, one defense.
I'll take it.
Not going to be as long as Big O. On the defense, we got to have turnovers, just like we did last game. We still fell a little short last game because we got started a little later, but if we get turnovers, we have a great chance of winning this ball game. And on the offensive side of the ball, keep feeding Jerry Jeudy.
I love it.
Keep feeding Jerry Jeudy.
Yeah, and a faster start on both sides.
Most
and of course, love to see some special teams plays this week. Any trick plays coming up?
I think so. I mean, Jerry Rosburg, right? He's been doing it for so long. He's got to have something up his sleeve. Immediately,
that's his
right?
specialty.
He's coaching up the special teams. I think he's going to have something for us.
I can't wait.
All right, guys, that'll do it for our Week 17 edition of Broncos Weekend. Be sure to tune in to CBS at 11 a.m. Mountain Time for the first game of the new year as the Broncos and Chiefs meet for the final time this season. For Steve Atwater, Orlando Franklin, and our entire Broncos broadcast team, we hope you have a safe and happy new year. Thanks so much for watching.